Thank you. Welcome to this sitting of the Licensing Subcommittee on the 7th of September. Members, you have an agenda item in front of you. For the purpose of dealing with that agenda, could I ask you to elect a chair? Chair, thank you. There's a couple of matters on the agenda. The declaration of interest, which I'll invite members to deal with shortly. There's then an application at agenda item 3 to consider an application for a static street trading licence. Members, in relation to that matter, and for those present, we have had to substitute one of the councillors to sit on this matter, and thank you to Councillor Hodgson for stepping in at the last minute. I'm going to invite to stand the matter down for 20 minutes to enable the councillor to have an opportunity to familiarise himself with the paperwork so that matters can be dealt with. Can I suggest declarations of interest are dealt with when we reconvene?
Right. Message. Welcome to today's meeting. This is a public meeting and members of the public and press are permitted to report on the proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photography, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If the alarm sounds, the premise must be evacuated immediately and do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed, and once you have left the building, the assembly point is in the High Street opposite the Guildhall, and members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphone when speaking. So I'd like to suspend the meeting for about 20 minutes, and we'll reconvene at 10:25 at the latest. Okay. Good morning again. I'm the chair of this licensing subcommittee, and the first thing is declarations of interests. There's Owen Cleary is a councillor, and we all know Owen, but at no time we've discussed this, so it's not of any benefit, or so we'll carry on with this proceeding. Is that correct, Vanessa?
Thank you. Just making anybody observing or
Yeah.
present just aware that you have a councillor that's going to be making representations, and clearly in your capacity as a councillor you will know Councillor Cleary, and it's just to confirm that at no point has there been any discussion between the parties.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask you then just to deal with matters accordingly, and also to identify our new councillor that is present to
Yes.
deal with this matter? Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Presentations to this subcommittee are not given under oath. However, I would like to remind all parties that the highest standards are expected, and any deviation from this high standards would possibly influence any decision of this committee. So we're now going to identify the members. So I'm Lucy Hodgson, I'm councillor for Warndon Villages South.
Jenny Barnes, Arboretum Ward.
And
Councillor Stephen Hodgson, I'm a councillor for Warden Parish North.
And then Vanessa.
Thank you very much. I'm Vanessa Brown, the legal advisor to the committee today.
Niall McMenamin, I'm Principal Officer in Licensing. I'll be presenting the report on behalf of the Council today.
Vicky Jones, I'm Licensing Officer for Regulatory Services.
Mr. Tekagach, the applications.
You okay?
Councillor Cleary, councillor for Warndon.
Thank you. Have you been made aware that that you could be represented for this hearing, and that you are satisfied with the procedures in front of you?
Yes, I have.
And Councillor Cleary, are you satisfied with the procedures and in front of you?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair.
And the procedures that we're going through is from page 33 onwards in your documents. So, would we like to hear the application?
Thank you, Chair. So if you'd like to turn to page 1 of your agenda report pack, this is an application for the grant of a static street trading licence. So the purpose of today's report is to consider an application for the grant of a static street trading licence submitted by Mr. Omar, and I've written it down, Takaresh, sorry. Who wishes to trade from the following location. So it's the junction of Blackpole Road and Cosgrove Close. So it's on the pavement on the junction of Blackpole Road and Cosgrove Close, and that's in Worcester. So a bit of background. On the 28th of April, the licensing office received an application for a static street trading licence, and a copy of the application is attached to your report packet appendix 1. So the full application's in there, which gives details, trading location, times, and the nature of the goods which are being sold. So the applicant is requesting to sell kebabs, chicken and cold drinks from Monday to Sunday between the hours of 4 p.m. and 11 p.m. So that's every day between 4 and 11. The applicant is seeking to trade from a 10-foot by 6-foot trailer in a static fixed location. So it'll be just in the one location on the junction of Blackpool Road and Cosgrove Road as mentioned. So an image of the proposed trailer and the trading location are attached to Appendix 2. So at Appendix 2 on page 9, you will see an image of the trailer itself, and that is the exact trailer that you propose to use, yeah. On page 10, we have an inside view. On page 11, we have a general street map, which shows the location in red. On page 12, we have a more detailed street map, which shows the exact location. And on page 13, there is an image of the trading location on the junction of Blackpool Road and Cosgrove Close. It's been highlighted in yellow with the X, so hopefully you've had an opportunity to familiarise yourself with the area or the proposed trading location. So officers can confirm that the application has been advertised in the correct manner and we've followed the correct procedure, and all of the statutory consultees have been consulted and they are listed in the report. So in response to the public notice and the email to the statutory consultees, the licensing office has received 5 representations, all objecting to the application. A copy of the representations are attached at Appendix 3. So on page 15, you will see the start of the email objections. The objections, and I don't propose to read all of them. Members, hopefully you've had an opportunity to read through all of the objections. But I'll just highlight that the objectors are concerned, certainly, one is from an existing street trader who also trades in the location some 15 metres away, and they are concerned and have raised an objection on business grounds and how that the granting of a licence will affect their existing business. We have had objections from local residents who live opposite the site and in the vicinity, and they have raised a number of concerns in relation to noise nuisance, possible antisocial behaviour from people gathering in the area, litter, traffic issues, so health and safety issues with cars coming and going from that location at the certain times, parking issues as well. One of them is an existing business, concerned that their car park will be used by customers visiting this street trading location. And so there's an array of issues which have been raised. No representations have been received from any other interested parties or any of the responsible authorities. So Highways hasn't raised an issue with the application. We have consulted them. We didn't receive a response from them at all, so they haven't commented one way or the other. So that is the application. The existing trader, Lucky's Lunchbox, as mentioned in your report pack, has a licence to trade, as I say, some 50 metres away. Lucky's Lunchbox trades, certainly from their website, from between 7:30 and 3 p.m. However, their licence grants them permission to trade from 6 a.m. until 11 p.m. should they choose to. I'm not aware that they do, and they're not here today to put forward their case. But certainly from looking at their website earlier, it would indicate that their trading times are between 7:30 and 3, I believe. The legal implications are contained within your report. It's the Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1982, and it's Schedule 4, that is, and the pertinent sections are all laid out in the report. But the relevant sections you really need to consider when considering the legislation, and I've highlighted them here, is paragraph 3. And 3A states, and this is one of the considerations that members must consider, that one of the grounds for you to consider refusal or grant is that there is not enough space in the street for the applicant to engage in the trading in which he or she desires to engage without causing undue interference or inconvenience to persons using the street. So that is one of the grounds. The other is that there are already enough traders trading in the streets from shops or otherwise in goods which the applicant desires to trade in. So members, if you're aware of the area, there are other eateries in the area. They haven't raised objections, but there are a number of other eateries in that location, trading between similar times. I think we have a KFC, a McDonald's, which has been raised in one of the objections, so it's worth bearing in mind. So those are the legal grounds which you can consider this application. Obviously, from your decision today, any person aggrieved by it has the right of appeal to the magistrates' courts within 21 days, as with lots of other licensing applications. And you must have due regard to the legislation when considering the application, and you should give it full consideration to the information supplied by applicants, both in the application and the hearing. I haven't mentioned, obviously, Councillor Cleary has also raised an objection. Again, I don't propose to go through that. Councillor Cleary is here to present his case when the appropriate time is right. So for decision today, members, you're asked to consider and determine whether or not to grant application for a static treats trading licence on the junction of Blackpool Road and Cosgrove Close. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Any?
Questions?
Not at the moment.
Jenny?
No, not at the moment, thank you.
Vanessa? Do you have any questions? No. No. And Councillor Cleary? No. So, the applicant then, do you want to make your representation?
Yes.
So, okay.
I am Mr. Tekagaj. First of all, thank you very much to everyone today. One thing I want to say about the traffic, I am there from 4 to 11, but the Lucky's there from morning to 3 o'clock. So if they've been there like maybe 15 years, and I know them very well as well. If there was an issue, it would be traffic issue now. Since that time, there's no issue, there's no problem. And another thing about the noise, I will have a very silent generator, and also I can, if you give me a chance to try 6 months, if in the future, if problem arises, then I can close it down. Thank you very much to everyone.
Jenny?
The sighting of the van is on a pavement, a wide pavement on a junction. Do you foresee any problems by parking in that area?
Could you please use your microphone?
No, I don't see. Because I can see the Lucky's running business there, and the people parking there for 5 minutes and just take their foods and go away. And I don't think it will be issue after 5, 6, because it's only 2 hours is the rush time, but after that, I don't think there will be issue. And also the Bristol Motors close, I think 6, so it won't be that busy there. Many thanks.
That's it. Do you have any, Niall, do you have any questions?
No, Chair.
And Vanessa? Right, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks everyone for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'll be brief. Before I start, I'd like to say that I do commend anyone trying to set up a business in the wake of a pandemic, but I have some serious concerns regarding this. First and foremost, my main issue is regarding traffic. This is an extremely busy junction between 4 and 6 o'clock. Anyone who's been past there will see that. And I'm concerned that this will exacerbate traffic problems in the region in the late afternoon and early evening. Secondly, I don't believe there's sufficient bin provision for this site. I believe there's a small bin next to the lamppost, but it won't be long before that's overflowing, in my opinion. Thirdly, residents have raised the concerns with me about noise in the evening, about cars pulling up and parking on the roadside and cars stopping and turning. There's another concern that was raised by some residents to me, which was regarding antisocial behaviour. I don't believe that's as relevant as it is in other parts of the ward where there's other takeaways. But it was raised by a couple of people. And the fourth point, regarding Lucky's lunchbox, it's important to remember that they are only 50 yards away and they've got a licence to trade till 11, but they choose not to. They choose to close at 3 or 4 o'clock most days, despite having a licence to 11. And I'm led to believe that's because there isn't sufficient footfall for them to keep that licence open. They do, however, have area to park around the corner on the industrial estate, and there is nowhere for cars to park in this particular area. So in short, my concerns are really to do with traffic and litter right opposite a residential area. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Right. Do you have any questions?
Yes. About the litters, I will provide my litters there, and I will keep clean the area, and I will keep inform my customers to keep it clean. And about the noise as well, I will inform them as well. And also, I'm going to make deliveries there to the area, Warden Villages area. I will have a driver, one driver. I don't think I'm going to be very busy there, like McDonald's, like KFC's. Maybe I get 10 customers, 5 customers a day, and few deliveries. I don't know how it's going to affect the traffic. I don't know, because only I'm aware of 2 hours. After 6 o'clock, many places close there, and there's not many cars will be there. Thank you very much to everyone.
I have one question. Do you envisage your premise to be static all the time, or will it be only, or will you take it away when you're not open?
Thank you. I'm happy to, however you like. If you want to be there all the time, I can leave it there. If it's not suitable to be there all the time, I can just put there the during opening hours. Many thanks.
Okay. Yes, Stephen.
Yes, it's about the dimensions of the van and the actual space on the curve where you want to position it. Have you actually measured the actual area, physical area, where you want to actually physically put the van? I know we have the photograph. Obviously, one of my concerns would be, would there still be room on the path? So a pedestrian, and especially one with something like a mobility scooter and that, can still get past without having to go onto the highway. And also, I would be concerned if there was a space limitation, customers will be standing on the highway when they're waiting for food. Can you reassure me that neither of those instances will not actually occur at this particular site?
I can see there's a line by the barriers, so that's the present area. The people walk around there. So there is enough place for me to put the van there, and I did measure as well. Hopefully about 5, 6, 7 customers can stay in front of the van. So they will not stay on the road, because the road, it will be dangerous. And I will probably have the line there as well, inform the customers, please do not stay on the road. So that should be okay.
And can pedestrians who are not customers still get past as well?
Yes,
without going
behind
on
the
the
van,
road?
behind the van, not the front of the van, behind the van. Thank you.
Just on that, would you consider turning it the other way so that the van faced towards the pavement rather than the road?
Yeah, I can do that as well.
Okay.
If it's dangerous to face to the road, I can turn around to the fence. It should be okay for me. Thank you.
What can you do about Councillor Cleary's about the noise in the evenings and that sort of thing?
The noise, probably the generator will be a problem, but I'm gonna put for the electric solar panel to not make non-noise. That's the way I can reduce the noise.
And what about customers?
Customers, I can tell them, I can put a note on my van, please be quiet, we are on residential area. But there's a factory just around the corner, which is running 24 hours. And I'm not gonna be noisy in that factory. And the lorries keep turning there, nighttime, and passing lorries. And I'm only there till 11. I'm not gonna stay there till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I think my noise will be more or less than them. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, on the councillor's comments, very little of it, unfortunately, seems to be things that we can make a decision on. Obviously, there's the other premises locally, but we've had nothing from highways, nothing from the police, so they don't appear to have any problem with what is proposed. Is there anything else you would want to say to us that your residents have raised? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Barnes. I just want to reiterate that I do think there's going to be a problem with traffic here, because there's a question about where the customers are coming from. If the expectation is customers will all be walking on foot to this van, then there's no problem in terms of parking spaces. But in my experience, there are always cars parking near these vans, particularly people on their way home from work, to stop to get some food on the way home. And there is nowhere for these cars to park other than on the verge. And there are businesses just down the way from this on Blackpool Road that commonly have cars parked all over the verge because they don't have car parks. And it causes an obstruction to pushchairs, mobility scooters, and it causes an obstruction on the road when there are cars parked on the verge, which has been seen along the towards McDonald's direction, parking on the verge to get into the other parts, the other businesses. And my main concern is people parking in order to stop and get food from here, because there isn't anywhere to park. And I think that's a possible safety risk. Thank you.
Have you got any more questions? Have you got any more questions?
No.
Vanessa?
Just a couple of matters for clarification, perhaps. I don't know if the licensing officer can assist with the goods that are traded by the other trader, because specifically you are required under the legislation to consider if there are already enough traders trading in the street from the shops or otherwise in goods in which the applicant desires to trade. I don't know if we could have some clarification as to what goods are sold from that second trader. I think also Councillor Cleary could confirm. So you indicated in your representation to members today that the distance between the two sites is 50 yards, but your written representation at page 19 says 100 yards. Do you want to just clarify what the difference is, or if one's right and one's wrong?
It's purely because I thought the distance was about 100 yards, and then when I heard Mr McMenamin say it was about 50, I thought, well, somebody's probably made it more accurate than me, hence me saying 50. Apologies.
Sorry, did you measure it, or is that sort of with your local knowledge that your view is?
I looked at it on the map and looked about 100 yards to me, but I've clearly misjudged it if Mr McMenamin knows better.
I don't. I was literally leading from the representation presented by the existing trader. That's where I've got my measurements from. So I think neither of us are any the wiser.
Well, there was the question about the goods.
Sorry, yeah, the existing trader chair, members, the types of goods to be sold are hot and cold sandwiches and drinks. That's what's been listed on their application, and that's what's on their licence.
Chair, there was just one other matter. The issue of litter has been raised, and if any street trading licence that is granted has standard conditions, and one of those conditions is that the licensee shall provide and maintain where appropriate adequate facilities for the collection of litter resulting in his or her trading, and at the close of each trading day shall remove any litter resulting from that trading from the street. So it is a condition that is written into any street trading licence that is granted.
And I think you answered the question about the litter as well.
Which one?
The litter.
On the litter, I will have to provide my litter there. Which
Yeah.
is, I will keep eye on it. And even if customers put my food boxes on the road, I will go pick up and put in the bin myself as well. I will keep clean.
Okay. Neil, no? Any more questions?
No.
Owen, any more questions?
No, just thank you for taking the time to hear me.
So, fine. So, would you like to say anything more?
Yes, about the parking, so I will inform all my customers where they cannot park, where they can park. And the luck is they close 3 o'clock and they can park round the corner from them as well. So I will keep control the area much as I can. And also I'm planning to do deliveries. So when I start doing deliveries, I don't think many customers will come in to the store, because I have been running business in Gloucester as well. My 80% business is deliveries, 20% is just collections. Many people now want to deliver to their house. So I don't think it will be parking issue there as well. Whether you know better, many thanks.
Okay. Owen, do you want to sum up?
No, I've said enough, thank you.
Noel, do you want to sum up?
Simply that, members, you've had the opportunity now to consider the report, look at the application and the types of goods that are being applied for, the location. In the report, there are the representations where concerns have been raised, which we've gone through. We now have the opportunity to hear from Councillor Cleary as well. So you're asked to consider this application and decide whether or not to grant a licence on this occasion. Thank you.
Okay, and Vanessa?
Members, for you to determine this application, it's come to you because it cannot be dealt with by officers under delegated powers. I direct you to page 2 and 3 of your report, which sets out to you the legal implications and the basis on which this application must be considered. I also direct you to your policy, which includes the process and also conditions. I've already drawn your attention to the fact that one of those does include litter, and perhaps therefore you may consider that would be addressed. You should identify those matters which fall within your remit to consider and determine if there is evidence that enables you to either grant, refuse, or to grant it with conditions. It's a matter for you, members.
Okay. So, I'd like to, so we're now going to start our deliberation. So I'd like to have everyone to leave the room apart from those of us. So, and we'll call you back when we've made a decision. Right. I grant this application with the following additional conditions. Firstly, that the stall must be taken away each night when not in use, and the serving hatch must be positioned away from the roadside. Okay? And the decision will be confirmed in writing to the application, to the applicant, within 7 working days of the hearing. Okay?
It will go to all parties who have
Yeah.
been interested parties, so Councillor Cleary, you'll get a copy as well.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much to everybody. Have a good day.
Okay. Presentations to this subcommittee are not given under oath. However, I should like to remind all parties that the highest standards are expected and any deviations from this high standard could possibly influence any decisions of the subcommittees. Are you happy with the procedures in front of you today? The procedure note is from page 45 onwards.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Very happy.
Okay. And all parties are limited to a maximum of 10 minutes in which to make representations to the subcommittees. This period may be extended at the discretion of the chairman, and where appropriate. So that's all right. So first of all, we need to introduce our councillors. So Denny Barnes,
Jenny Barnes, Arboretum Ward.
Lucy Hodgson, Warder Parish South,
and Simon Cronin, Nunnery Ward.
and then Vanessa.
Vanessa Brown, the legal advisor.
Niall McMenamin, Principal Officer for Licensing. I'll be presenting the report on behalf of the Council today.
Nikki Jones, licensing officer for regulatory services.
Robbie Mills, I'm the DPS and Site Director for Labyrinth Worcester.
Andrew Woods, I'm the solicitor for the applicants, and I don't know if Rebecca's microphone's working.
Rebecca Arnold, Operations and Training Director for Epic Bars and Clubs.
We'll share this.
Licensing officer will present the report outlining any relevant representations and relevancies to Worcester City's statement of licensing policy and guidance. Vanessa, do you want to just start, and then Niall can...
I think, members, it's a matter for you to determine today. This is an application that's been submitted to the licensing authority and cannot be determined by licensing officers as it falls outside of the policy insofar as there is objections that have been raised. It is a matter for you to decide today, and the first port of call is to Niall to hear the report.
Thank you, Chair, members. If you'd like to turn to page 1 of your report pack, you'll see this is an application for the grant of a premises licence for a premises named Labyrinth. So the purpose of today's report is for members to consider and determine an application for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of Labyrinth. A bit of background to the papers is that on the 29th of June, an application was received from Epic Bars of Worcester Limited for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of Labyrinth. Labyrinth is located at 15A, Reindeer Court, which is Melcheapen Street, Worcester. The main entrance, I believe, is on New Street, though, so it's worth bearing in mind that the main entrance into the premises is actually on New Street. So the application, we can confirm that it contained all of the prerequisite documents, including the fee, plan of the premises, and all the other necessary documents. It can be confirmed the application has been advertised in accordance with the requirements of the Licensing Act and the associated regulations, and it has also been served on all of the responsible authorities. So a copy of the application is attached to your report back at Appendix 1. That starts on page 5. And the application itself consists of all of the details you need for an application, which is the operating hours, times, licensable activities, and also within that document, there are a number of conditions which have been put forward by the applicant, and they are very detailed. I think the conditions you'll find are on page 20 onwards. There are 3 or 4 pages of conditions on how the application is going to promote the licensing objective. So it's worth bearing in mind those conditions when making a determination today. So the applicant is applying for the following licensable activities, and they are listed in your report at 2.5. They are, and it's a bit of a, I'll change the order just so that they make sense. This is live music, performance of dance, recorded music, anything of a similar description to regulated entertainment, and that is every day from 8 until 4:15, obviously indoors. Late night refreshment from 11 until 4:15, and the sale of alcohol from 8 until 3:45. The designated premises supervisor identified in the application is Mr. Mills, and as you're probably aware, there is currently a licence in place for the premises, and there has been for a number of years, which covers the following licensable activities: performance of dance, anything of a similar description, and late night refreshment until 2:30, and then the performance of live music, recorded music, and the sale of alcohol until 3:15 a.m. And a copy of that licence is attached to your report back at Appendix 2. So the representations. So during the consultation period, there were no representations received from any of the responsible authorities. However, there was engagement between the police and the applicant, and conversations took place in relation to their application. They raised concerns directly with the applicant regarding their trading hours, and they had concerns around increased chance of antisocial behaviour and disorder. So between the applicant and the police, they've agreed to reduce the sale of alcohol time and closing time, which is listed on 2.5, to 3:45. That's correct, isn't it? Yeah. So that has been reduced. So the original application asked for 4:15. That has been reduced by agreement with the police. So on that proviso, the police have not raised, not put forward a representation objecting to the application. So other persons. So in response to the public notices and during the consultation period, representations have been received from members of the public and businesses in the area. And a copy of those representations in their entirety, albeit with the personal details redacted, is attached at Appendix 4. So those representations, I'm not proposing to read through them. You have them. I'm sure you've read them. But they certainly raise concerns in relation to the levels of antisocial behaviour in the area. They also talk about noise pollution, and they cite the premises licence. So issuing the extended hours would undermine the prevention of crime and disorder, public nuisance, and public safety licensing objectives. And I'll come on to the licensing objectives in a second. So those representations have all cited antisocial behaviour, noise, crime and disorder as a concern, should a licence be granted for the times which are being applied for. So we move on to policy considerations. So the council are aware, or rather members should be fully aware of the council's statement of licensing policy. It's a document which has been published on how the council approaches its responsibilities to licensing. Now within that document, there is a further special policy on cumulative impact. Now the cumulative impact is the effect that a number or a concentration of premises has in a particular location on undermining the licensing objectives. So there is a special, we have given it consideration, Worcester City, and there is a special policy in there. So that policy relates to the particular premises because it refers to premises which open after 12 o'clock and are predominantly, I mean, we talk about vertical drinking establishments. It's a peculiar term, but basically those that are predominantly alcohol-led premises. So it is relevant when considering this, and you're aware of the policy and its implications. Obviously, the council statement of licensing policy, we haven't attached it to the papers. It's quite a hefty document. So it's just that relevant section which has been highlighted in the papers. We move on to the legal implications. You are obliged to determine this application with a view to the promotion of the licensing objectives, and I've mentioned them already. There are 4 licensing objectives. the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and the protection of children from harm. In this particular application, the three licensing objectives which have been raised as or raised for consideration or certainly concerned by the people putting forward objections are the prevention of crime and disorder due to antisocial behaviour, public safety of people in the area, and the public nuisance again generated by people, the anticipated public nuisance of people in that area should the licence be granted. So when making your decision, you must have regard to the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under section 182, which again gives members guidance on licensing matters, and your own licensing policy, which I've mentioned already. You must also have regard to the representations which have been made and any evidence which you hear. And Mr. Wood will come on to give his presentation very shortly. So, what must you do? The subcommittee must take such action or one of the following steps it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. So, having heard from all parties, and certainly myself, you have three options. You can grant the licence as requested and take no further action. You have the ability to modify the conditions of the licence by altering or omitting or adding to them. But be mindful of the conditions which have already been volunteered by the applicants. Or you can reject the application in whole or part, so you can reject certain sections of it. What you must note is that you can't simply modify the conditions or reject the application in whole or part just because you consider it desirable to do so. It must be with a view to promoting the licensing objective. So you must listen to the evidence, read the evidence that you have, listen to the presentation by the applicant, and then make a determination once you've heard everything. Again, all parties notified of the subcommittee decision within 5 working days, standard procedure. And any party aggrieved by the decision of the council today or this committee has the right of appeal. So that's the applicant and also those persons who've made the put forward representations objecting. Again, that's within 21 days to the magistrates' courts. Again, you're familiar with the appeals process. We've talked about the agreed procedure. So, members, you're asked today to consider and determine the application for a new premises licence in respect of the premises. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Vanessa? The applicants? No? Okay. So, would the application please make their representation?
Thank you, councillors. I propose to make the representations within 10 minutes. Rebecca, to my right, is the Operations and Training Director and will be happy to answer any questions, as will Robbie, who's the Site Designated Premises Supervisor. I don't propose to invite them to address you as such, but they're both here to answer any questions. Just 3 brief preliminary points, and I'll try and keep the whole submission as brief as I can. Firstly, as Niall has said, these are existing premises that have been in Worcester for many years, and although the address is 15A Reindeer Court, and I saw one of the councillors nodding, the main entrance is off New Street to the premises. Secondly, we've applied for a new licence, and I desperately hope that isn't confusing to everybody. In my client's Epic Bars took over these premises that used to be Alexander's in May of this year. They wanted to do 2 things in terms of the licence. Firstly, amend the layout plans because they've spent in the region of £400,000 on the premises, updating them and changing the layout inside. And secondly, to extend the hours to match what other competitors would have in Worcester. We never sought to take it later than anybody else had. I advised my clients in June when we were making the application, when they told me that they were hoping to reopen the premises in August, that if we applied to vary the licence on plans and on the hours, and if we received objections to the application, then we might not get a hearing before the middle of August, and they wouldn't be able to open because the plans wouldn't be approved. So it's my fault, I'm afraid. I suggested to them that we did a variation on the plans, which we submitted and was granted, and applied for a new licence for the hours, so that we are and have been trading on the existing licence with the amended plans, and now here applying for the new licence. But just to be very clear, if the new licence is granted, then the existing licence will be surrendered. So we're not asking you to grant an additional licence as such. And again, just to be clear, that the only difference between this new application and the existing licence is the request for longer trading hours. So all of the conditions, everything that's on the existing licence is replicated on this licence application. Nothing has changed, but we wanted to extend the hours. The existing licence has 3:15 for alcohol and 3:45 close. We actually originally applied for a 4 o'clock alcohol with a 4:30 close, but as my clients always do, we had some good meetings with the police. We discussed Worcester and police matters, and we agreed with the police that although one or two of our competitors have 4 o'clock, we agreed to close 15 minutes before them. So the application is now 3:45 for alcohol and 4:15 for closing, which is a 30-minute extension on what we have. And that's the background to the application. In terms of Epic Bars, I've submitted two documents. Firstly, a very brief summary of who Epic Bars are, and secondly, a very detailed operational manual that Rebecca is responsible for. In summary, the owners of Epic Bars have been in the late night industry for in the region of 25 years. They've operated in excess of 35 premises throughout England and Wales. They're currently operating 11 late night bars and 4 bars which are attached onto these bars. They have won awards for how they operate. They always work very closely with the authorities and with residents. And again, that's been recognised in some of the awards that were given. I think in particular, one of the directors won an award in Cheltenham. They always invest money. And I think it's important to say it's their money that they are investing. And that's important because they do genuinely care about the premises and what happens in the premises. I'd like to say that they care because they're very experienced and they want to provide a great service. But they know that if it doesn't go as planned, their money will be lost because action will be taken and the premises will not be able to trade. So it's very hands-on. There's no outside finance put into these premises. It's put in by the shareholders and it's run by the directors. And in the first week or two of trading back in May, Rebecca, although her title is Operations and Training Director, she would be actually standing on the front door, working with Robbie, understanding what's happening in Worcester and making sure that the staff are behaving themselves correctly. She has written this detailed ops manual. I'm bound to say it's one of the more detailed and better operational manuals that you will see. It deals with pretty much everything, but in particular it deals with management of noise, it deals with management of the door team, making sure they're doing the job, it deals with staff training. There's a fantastic new digital CCTV system being put into the premises. They have on these premises a medic as well, who is not part of the bar team or part of the front door team, and the medic also acts as a guest welfare officer whose sole purpose is to just watch what's going on in the club and to assess if there's anybody who might need assistance. And that might not just be through intoxication, it might be if situations are developing, the guest welfare officer would go over and speak to people and make sure everybody is happy and having a good night. These premises don't allow any drinks to be taken outside onto New Street. I know some of the residents have referred to that. Nobody can take a drink onto New Street from these premises. And we've also, which I think the residents are pleased about, we've also put in quite a few extra toilets in these premises to make sure there is an abundance of them. I think in the club itself, there's 9 cubicles and 9 urinals, and some extra toilets have been placed downstairs as well for those who are just using the bar area. So a lot of thought has gone into providing the right environment within the premises. I mentioned earlier that we would always work with the police. The directors ring the police up before they make any application, and there's been very positive discussions with Joe Brooks at the police, which has led to the slight amendment to the application. And as you will have noticed, there are no representations from any of the authorities, environmental health or otherwise, suggesting that this application doesn't promote the licensing objectives and is against policy. I hope that you are persuaded that with all the conditions on the licence and with the operational manual, this actually sets a really high level of how premises should trade, and that will be maintained as Worcester develops and protects its late night economy. My clients have worked in areas before where there has been the BID or the Purple Flag programme, and they're very supportive of that. We know people who are involved in that and will work with the council and with others in promoting that if that's what the City of Worcester is looking to do. We have operated temporary event notices to 4 AM. So we've made the application for a permanent licence, but we also wanted to test the water ourselves. So over the space of the last 4 weekends, we have actually been trading to 4 o'clock. As I'm sure you know, you can apply for a limited number of temporary extensions each year. You can apply for 21 days during the 365 days of the year. And venues use that for different reasons. Oh, is that my 10 minutes? I'm nearly there. If I could just have... Oh, is that not my 10 minutes, or is it just an alarm? I'm nearly done. Okay, thank you. So we have actually, we used our temporary events to stay open legally until 4 o'clock to assess how it went and also to see if any issues were raised. And I'm pleased to say we haven't had a single complaint from anybody, authority or residents otherwise, during those 4 weekends of operating until 4 o'clock. We did have some residents who wrote in. I think, being a lawyer, I'm going to say that they're more general about issues in Worcester City rather than specific to the premises. But we invited, through Nicola and Emma, all residents to come and meet us who'd made the objections. And 2 of them turned up last Tuesday. We had a meeting with 2 residents. We talked about their issues in the centre of Worcester. They were complimentary about the way we had been operating, because they'd been in to check us out and see what it was like, and they had issues in different parts of the town. And at the end of the meeting, we've swapped email addresses and agreed that we will support them in any initiatives, particularly with taxes on New Street and issues which might be down at the other end of New Street. But we will work with the residents and with the authorities as best we can. And even those who didn't come to the meeting, if anybody ever wants an email address or a telephone number of the site manager, we'd always make that available so that residents can speak to us. So I hope I've trying to be as quick as possible, but also to give you all of the information. In terms of the policy, we are already operating beyond 12 o'clock in any event, and we are not seeking an additional new licence. We're seeking a replacement licence, but I hope in any event that you are satisfied that with all of those conditions, with the operations manual and with the work that Epic Bars have done to date, that this is an application which without a doubt promotes the licensing objectives, that the commitment to invest that money in Worcester is to provide a top drawer quality late night establishment for everybody to enjoy safely, and my clients would never do anything that would impact on the safety of their guests. So you have a very experienced operator with very detailed training, policies, staff who fully understand their role. Since we've traded in May, Robbie's not had a single complaint from residents about how we operate, or a complaint saying it's actually your customers who are coming out and doing and causing problems. Our customers will generally, and you will know much more than me, leave the premises and turn left and go down to the Corn Market, either in a taxi or to get a taxi at that area, rather than turning right and going all down towards Friar Street, etc. So location-wise, we're a little bit more fortunate than some of the other late night venues, because our customers go left and then leave, whereas, and this isn't suggesting any blame at all, others in different locations might have customers walking through the centre either looking for a taxi or whatever, but certainly that's no criticism of anybody else. That's just explaining that our customers will turn left and leave. And those are my submissions, councillors. We are here. I did send the Thwaites case to Vanessa and the team, which refers to not taking into account speculative submissions on, well, this might happen, but I'd rather not necessarily get into that. It's there. I'd rather talk about the strength of what I see the application with the conditions, the operator and the people. So we're all here for any questions.
We've actually gone with the assessment for Purple Flag, and we're actually waiting for the assessor to hopefully we'll get the Purple Flag status in about a month. So
we're down actually. They were speaking to Robbie on the front door.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they did an inspection. So yeah, we're very supportive of that.
Anyway, right, questions, Simon.
Thank you, Chair. I've got 2 or 3 questions, but I'll take the first one first and see whether your operating schedule is probably the most impressive one we've seen. It's very thorough. It covers every possible aspect. Bearing in mind how impressive this is as a sort of external aid to this kind of environment, my question is, how engaged within your organisation are all of your employees with the totality of this document? Is everyone who works for you required to know all 59 pages of this, or does it apply differently at different levels of the organisation?
So in terms of what you mentioned, the operations manual is for the site directors and for any authorities that need to see it. But what we have done from that document is created staff training packs, which all staff members complete, and we've made it in very manageable chunks of training that's interactive for them to do. When it comes to that training and a new business, I'm the one that goes in to give the training initially, as I'm the one that dealt with the operations manual, and then I also fully train the management team in how to roll out that training going forward. And it's now all on an online app, so we do send the staff refresher training every 3 to 6 months, depending on the different sections. So Intox and Challenge 25 is completed every 3 months. And if we feel like they need any refresher training in any of the other areas, we can then send them that to complete with support.
Thank you.
Another one?
Yes, you will have noticed that the objections to a large extent surround the problem of people urinating and vomiting in people's doorways and so forth. I appreciate the difficulty of tracking that back to an individual premises. My having looked through this operating manual, I was trying to find any reference to any policy which specifically targets mitigation of that. I looked through the preventing and dealing with intoxication and management of outside and dispersal policy. I understand that this will all happen out of sight of the premises, but you know, if it's something which is happening by people who've been your customers for the night, arguably there should be some policy which targets that. Can you just? I may have missed it in amongst the 59 pages, but can you just point me to anywhere in your operating manual that actually tackles that problem?
Yeah, I think, Councillor, I think so there isn't a specific heading managing people as they leave. It would be covered in the intoxication and the dispersal policy, in that you wouldn't be allowing customers tend to carry out the activities that you've referred to, probably if they're far too intoxicated. And so it's managing intoxication levels within the building. And then when you're dispersing the customers, Robbie and the team will be speaking to the customers and making sure that they're not leaving and behaving in a way that's not appropriate, that Robbie will watch which way they will go, and generally, as I said, 99 times out of 100 they'll turn left or get into a taxi. So there probably isn't a heading which is specific to that question, but it is covered by how the business manages dispersal. I don't know if Rebecca, is there anything to add to that?
So in terms of the dispersal policy, we do, and with the staff training, obviously clean the area outside of our business at the end of the night. So if there was any vomit or anything in someone's doorway over the road or any bottles, we will, even though they could not be ours, we'll collect and clean that mess up and do our best. In terms of when people come down the street later on, once our business is shut, sometimes things would be out of our control to clean up, but if it's come from our customers, whilst we've been open and at the end of the night, we do sweep the path down and make sure that all of the rubbish and everything is cleared away.
Okay, last one. Sorry, seem to have a fixation on this particular issue, but looking at your plans, and I know you did say something about some provision on the ground floor, but I noticed the toilets predominantly are on the first floor, and people being as they are, when it comes to leaving time, they won't necessarily think about the need to go use the toilet before they go out of the building. Do you have, sounds rather sort of nanny culture, but it might be a helpful idea if you don't already have it. Signage as people leave the building to remind them that there are toilets in the building which they could use before they go out into the street. Because there are no public toilets.
So yeah, obviously we've got signs, the toilets are sign written, but what you're saying is exactly right. There are times in the night, especially towards the end of the night, people will be going outside waiting for taxis, so on and so forth. Anybody who approaches us, even though they've left our building, sometimes even though they've not been in our building, if they approach us and tell us that they need the toilet, which I hope people would do, rather than doing it somewhere else, then obviously we'll accommodate them and let them use the toilet. And we'll do that up until the time the dispersal policy is finished and the street is empty. And that's just normal practice for us anyway, common courtesy. But yes, there are toilet signs. There are obviously the obligatory don't drink and drive signs. All of the signs in which you exit the building on are the ones that are informative to the customer to behave once they leave the building. And that's on the exit route of the building. So we do what we can.
Like Simon, I was very impressed with your operations manual. I thought it was really good, and you're to be congratulated for that. My question is about your floor plans. Now, obviously, you've had a lot of work done recently. Some of the internal walls look much thicker, and so, in fact, some of the external walls look a lot thicker as well. Is this just a drawing mistake, or have you added sound insulation, or what's the reason for that?
I think it's just, we haven't added anything to the width of the walls, so I think it's just the way the drawing appears, if that answers the question.
That's fine. I just wondered, what the state of play was on that. I don't think you can be held responsible for other people's problems, and I'm very reassured that you would allow people to access your toilets towards the end of an evening, and I hope that message goes out, because it is quite important. How many people leave a pub and a couple of minutes later, oh, I wish I had. So I think that's a really good policy to have, and I support it. Thank you.
I haven't got any questions, but again, I very much welcome your operating manual, and I particularly want to commend your sort of welfare person as well, because again, people have accidents or whatever, or even spiking and that sort of thing, and somebody that your customers can go to. I don't know how well it's marketed and that sort of thing, but certainly it's a welcome thought, so thank you. That just needs, we need to sum up. So, Vanessa? Oh, so, yes, the applicants.
I'd be repeating everything I've said, and I've made all the submissions, councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Niall?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. You've now had the opportunity to hear from the applicant, so you are asked today to consider this application for a new premises licence in respect of Labyrinth 15A, Reindeer Court. It is for a new premises licence, and you've heard the explanation as to why a new application has been submitted as opposed to a variation. You're asked to consider the application in line with the Council's policy, taking into account the licensing objectives and the promotion of the licensing objectives. So members, you're simply asked to determine the application, consider whether to grant or refuse. Thank you.
Thank you, members. This is for you to determine in light of the evidence that you have before you, the evidence that you have heard and the evidence that's in your papers. just because representations are made in writing and the author of those representations haven't attended in person doesn't mean that you should disregard them. You should give what weight you consider appropriate in line with the promotion of the licensing objectives. It's crime and disorder and public nuisance that you are minded to consider. It's also... Sorry, it's a matter for you to consider the evidence is relevant to this premises. And whilst this is a new application, you will be mindful of the fact there is a premises licence already in existence, and it's perhaps the difference between that original licence and the application that you are being asked to consider today that is where you ought to focus your minds. This is an area in the community of impact area within the city centre, and it is therefore incumbent upon the applicant to show that the activities that are being sought will not add to the cumulative impact. You've heard the evidence today. It's for you to determine whether or not it would, and to consider whether or not to grant this application, either as it's presented to you or with any conditions that you consider appropriate, having regard to the evidence. There's nothing further I can assist you with.
No. So I'm going to adjourn this hearing. I'd like you to leave the room, and we'll reconvene once our decision's been made. Thank you. the application as presented to members, and members were impressed with your business operational manual. We are very sympathetic to the considerations of the concerns by residents in the area, but we are conscious of really they are concerns that are really to the general nighttime economy in the area rather than specific to your particular premise. So thank you.
There'll be a formal decision noted within 5 working days, sent to you and all parties. Thank you.
Thank you.